Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
And so, upon further examination, I have come to the following conclusion. Imagination is more important than knowledge.
What do imagination and retirement planning have to do with one another? Well, stay tuned and I'll tell you.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
With an estimated IQ of 180, the late great Albert Einstein was, in his day and to this day, considered one of the most intelligent minds ever to walk the face of the earth. Famous for his complicated and earth-shattering theory of relativity, Einstein has also been credited with, of all things, the paper towel. Hey, at least we created something we can all understand. Yet, as intelligent as old Albert was, his most famous quote regarding the importance of imagination over knowledge is one that I can relate to and truly is, in my view, a humdinger of anything he's ever created. So what does one's imagination have to do with creating a worry-free retirement? Well, we can only imagine. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today we're going to conclude our three-part series on how to leverage your retirement with the secret leveraging ingredient available to us all, and that is imagination. But before we imagine what the rest of this show has to do with your retirement, let me introduce to you America's favorite financial sidekick. He's got a new name, folks, with that last impersonation of Albert Einstein. He is Aaron Einstein. Do you like that, Aaron?
Yeah, I like that. I came up with that. I like it.
Oh, you came up with that. I thought
well,
Derek
yeah, I'm going to take credit for it. I came up with it.
Oh,
do you think somebody else did?
Well, I thought Derek did. Derek, you told me you came up with that.
No, I came up with it. I'll take the credit.
Yeah, Derek, you go back to work.
Get credit where credit's due, right?
Yeah,
no,
that's right.
It was probably a collaboration between Derek and myself. We'll be honest.
Well, I kind of like Einstein better than Orander. Why don't you just change it to Einstein?
Oh, thanks a lot. Okay.
That was like when I first hired Shanna Petty in our office, in the Bowling Green office. I don't know if I told you this. It was hilarious. So we had Shannon Ross, who had just hired. As we were growing, I had hired a Shanna Petty, and we were worried that Shannon and Shanna, because they sound so much alike, would be confusing. And actually, it has been very confusing, but that's okay. But anyway, and I was kind of kidding with her half-heartedly, and I said, "Hey, Shanna, what's your middle name?" I don't remember what it was, Hazel or something. But anyway, I said, "If you don't mind, we have a Shannon in the office, and I'm going to call you Hazel if that's okay." And she looked real funny. She goes, "I don't know if I like that." And I said, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so by the way, folks, we do have a Shannon and a Shanna, and now we have an Aaron Orander and an Aaron Einstein. So it's very nice to meet you, Aaron. But no, great impersonation. But it is really interesting that he would say that. Had you ever seen that quote before?
I've never seen that quote from Albert Einstein. I've seen all kinds of, videos and pictures of him and everything else. I've never seen that quote.
So I guess the question is, in most cases, would you agree with that quote? And let's repeat that imagination is more important than knowledge.
I mean, I guess. It is important to have an imagination. I think, that's where we've gotten a lot of our, awesome inventions. Somebody had this crazy imagination of, what if we had something in your pocket that just told you the weather and you could communicate with people at all times. And that was at first somebody's imagination thinking of that.
That's right. As we prepare for our TV show, Aaron, we were talking about Steve Jobs and, his invention of I guess he's credited with the invention, but basically he imagined a desktop computer back in the 70s sitting on a desk. Now, we don't think anything about that now because everybody's got desktop computers. Have you ever seen pictures of the old huge mainframe computers?
Oh, yeah, I've seen them before. I've worked in places, the television station I worked at for years, they called them racks. They had huge racks of, just these huge tape decks, and then this thing would be easily 8 feet tall. And what did it do? Well, it played VHS tapes. That's what it did.
Yeah, now you made reference to cell phones and iPhones. I mean, it's amazing the technology that they've harnessed. So I kind of agree with old Albert, and we're going to get into something I've created called the Worry-Free Retirement and these game plans that we create, these proprietary game plans, and how that came to be. It's important. But before we get too far into this, though, again, the other two forms of leverage we talked about the prior weeks, which, by the way, if you've missed the prior radio shows, Aaron, tell them real quick how they can go back and listen to prior radio shows of the Worry-Free Retirement.
Sure, no problem. Folks, all you got to do is go to SoundCloud.com. That's SoundCloud.com. And right there in the top search bar, you just want to click on that and type in the Worry-Free Retirement. Once you type that in, click that search button, and there you go. You're going to see our awesome bobblehead. Just click on the bobblehead there, and you're going to find all of our past radio shows.
Thank you, Aaron. So, yeah, the first leverage you have in creating a worry-free retirement is time. The problem with time is you've only got 24 hours in a day, and we're all gifted or blessed or maybe cursed, depending on your view on time, with the same amount of time. So really, you can leverage your time so much. I know we are going to talk later about the amount of time sometimes people spend, Aaron, on trying to find an advisor. We've got a breakdown of that. And I think Albert's going to show up and do that calculation for us later, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Aaron Einstein's showing up later on. Maybe he's going to have some correct calculations for us.
And then you have the other leverage of money, which, again, unless you're a multi-millionaire, using other people's money is not an option. So we at Tony Walker Financial can show you safer ways to leverage your money. That's number two. But I really think the imagination, number three, the form of leverage that allows anybody, think about this, rich, poor, indifferent, anybody can use their imagination to conjure up anything imaginable. I always like to think of Walt Disney. Walt Disney, literally, if you read his biography, was kind of considered a nut job. He went to banks. Think about this. I'm coming to a bank to borrow money to buy some swampland in Florida so I can build a theme park. What would you say to that if you're a banker?
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah,
not interested.
But if you look at Walt Disney and read about him, he had a vision for Disney World, and it came to be. Einstein had a vision of a lot of different inventions. I tell you, one of the best business books I've ever read, and folks, you might want to pick this up if you're a business owner. This would surprise you. It actually is about the great inventor Thomas Edison. This book by Blaine McCormick is called 10 Business Lessons from America's Greatest Innovator, and that was Thomas Edison. This is a wonderful book, and I just drug it out. I read this years ago. I drug it out. One of the big things Edison realized was the more people that got together and worked on things, he had a place called Menlo Park where other inventors and scientists would show up and collaborate and just use their imagination, the more things they created. You know how many patents he's got credited to his name, Edison?
Probably over 100, I guess.
Yeah, it's close to 1,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So obviously he was a knowledgeable fellow, but I think his imagination really ruled the roost there and allowed him to do so much. So this is a retirement planning show, folks, okay? I'm not David Bain or the amazing Kreskin here. We are going to talk and give you something you can latch onto. But what does imagination have to do with this process I created some 20 years ago called the Worry-Free Retirement? Well, when I return, we're going to get into that. We've also got an interesting interview that our own Mary Beth Combs did with one of our clients, talking about imagination that this person provided. And then finally, how our income software can help you make a decision on who you're going to trust with your money and, more importantly, your retirement moving forward. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Some 20 years ago, I imagined a process that would be unlike any other financial process available, one specifically geared towards savers, not investors and speculators, and I call this process, it's a 5-step process, called the worry-free retirement. And it's interesting, many people kind of are taken back by this. Obviously, we're in the money business, folks, but it's interesting. The first step of our process is something I call clarify your vision. Or I guess you could say, as Einstein said, we're trying to harness your imagination. In other words, this is really not about the money. What this is about, this thing called retirement, is now that you've worked all these years, what is it you envision? What is it you want to do with the rest of your life? Earlier, Aaron and I were talking about the idea of imagination with people like Einstein and Steve Jobs, who was credited with inventing the desktop computer, and Thomas Edison and all these people. Well, what I envisioned, Aaron, back in the day when I started doing retirement planning some 20 years ago, is some sort of software. See, there was nothing out there like that. I mean, if I were to talk to somebody about retirement planning, or a stockbroker did, we were all kind of on the same page. We were talking more in theory, and you need a bunch of money, and we're going to try to grow your money, and then you live off the dividends. I mean, really, but there wasn't much in writing. There was no way for people to understand how their taxes were going to be affected, how long the money would last, what would happen if they withdrew money out unexpectedly for different things. Nothing like that existed, especially for conservative investors, whom I call savers. So what I envisioned was software that was going to be able to do that. Now, prior to inventing this software and having a computer programmer help me with this, myself and our fellow fiduciary in the Bowling Green office, Heather Hughes, used to sit around, and I had her do these long Excel spreadsheets. And they worked, and our clients loved them. But here's what I worried about, Aaron. As our practice was growing, I told Heather this was years ago before we invented the software. I said, Heather, you don't understand what's going to happen as we grow. And she's like, oh, I know what's going to happen. Heather, no, you cannot do all these plans, because she's doing them manually. So my point was, I imagined what was going to happen: growth, more clients, more income plans, more service work. And I said, we've got to get some help. We've got to use technology to our advantage. So I spent well in the 6 figures to find somebody that created this software. Now, by the way, folks, you're not going to be able to see this software through the magic of radio, unfortunately. But what you can do, we're getting ready to record this show today. So, Aaron, the show we're going to record today, the Worry-Free Retirement, first of all, you might even tell people how they can watch past episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement. But do you have handy there when the show that we're recording today will be on live TV?
Yeah, so the radio show that you're listening to right now, folks, you should be listening to this on February 17th. The television show that's kind of going to correspond to this and have a lot of the same information where you can see the visuals, this is going to be on this coming weekend. So that's Saturday, February 19th and Sunday, February 20th. Now, if you want to watch past episodes, we are in the 3rd part of our leverage series. So if you missed the first 2 and you want to go back, it's really easy to do. All you got to do is go to youtube.com. That's youtube.com. Type in the search bar right there, Tony Walker Financial, click search, and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Just click on that, and you're going to find all of our video content.
Well, thank you, Aaron. And just to prove that the work that we do and the mission I have in life to help savers worry less about money is more than just about the money, I was doing a review. This was probably about 4 or 5 months ago with a current client, and this gentleman is about my age. And I hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and he and his wife came in. And, well, I tell you what I'll do. I sent Mary Beth Combs out, and actually my daughter Lacey, who's assisting with a little bit of remote filming and things and assisting Mary Beth. But I sent them out to interview this gentleman and basically let me set the stage. Aaron, this fella had a 6-figure job in manufacturing years ago. He was knocking it out of the park, right? And in our vision meeting that we had, I said, really, what is it you want to do? And I think it's going to be interesting to listen to the turn he took in his career and how much joy he has in some of the changes he's made. So let's roll tape on this.
Well, her and I were high school sweethearts. So right out of high school, we got married. She was 20, I was 21, and I had to go get a real job. So I went to Cleveland and got a job as a technician in a powder coating factory. I moved all over the country, going for the next job, the next raise, the next position, and I was meant for something else. You know, there's something bigger, something out there, and I need to go for that. And then a better job came up. Ends up down in Louisville, I went to a company as technical director, which I was over quality control and research and development labs for that company. So I was like at the pinnacle of, you know, my field. I was as high as I could possibly go. I was making rock star money, and then God got a hold of me. I got saved at 36 and totally changed everything. Could feel him wanting me to go towards full-time ministry, but we really didn't see how we could do that. And that's when we met Tony. And then he must have, I don't know if God prompted him or if he just felt something, but he says, what do you really want to do? But I can remember thinking, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm doing it. I'm there. I'm the man in that company. I'm making six figures. I've got it licked. But then he said, no, really, what do you want to do with your life? I said, I want to be full-time ministry. We had a big house in Oldham County. I had a payment on my Jeep still, and to go, when we went full-time ministry, I took an 85% pay cut. We bought a house in Frankfurt. We put money in the bank. I mean, on paper, it should have never worked,
But he was just preparing and getting us ready for this next part of our life. Mm-hmm. So
there's some pieces of life that's about the money, but that never brings you happiness or joy. It's, now it's knowing that I'm in God's will, I'm doing what he wants me to do, and I love my life.
Well, we realized that in life that just following God and what his will and our lives are way more important than really things and money, and we live a simple life and we trust God and he will provide for us, and we're just thankful that we were obedient to his calling, and he gets all the credit and all the glory for our life, and we're thankful for that.
So that's a fascinating interview. I think it's so cool what the Abrams are doing. So you might be saying, well, Tony, I don't know if I want to quit my job and go into full-time ministry, but I love the way you have this ability or skill to help people think about what they want. Where did you learn all of that? Well, I've studied under a lot of great mentors, but one of the places I've learned to try to help people think through things, clarify their vision, how to set up a way to monitor their progress along the way is something called the R factor. It's an exercise I learned from the founder of Strategic Coaching, Mr. Dan Sullivan, and the R factor basically goes something like this. So if you're at a point where you can make some notes on this, here's how it would work. So anything you're thinking about doing, I'll use an example of retirement. So let's just say somebody comes into me and they want to retire next year. I'll say, okay, so let's say between now and the time you retire, this is the question I would ask them. What has to happen between that period of time for you to feel like it's been a successful endeavor? And they might come back and say, well, between now and the time I retire, I'd like to have my house paid off. I don't want any debt. And I'd go, okay, make a note of that. Between now and the time of retirement, I want to make sure I confirm how much health insurance is going to cost and get all that in order. Okay, that sounds good. What about estate planning? Yeah. I want to get my estate plan. So in other words, we would work with them and figure out exactly what their goals and objectives are. Then comes the fun part. Speaking of Thomas Edison, he used a methodology called SWOT. Have you ever heard of SWOT? So he would do the same thing. Whenever he was on a project or working on a goal, he would do what's called SWOT, which would mean strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. And he would list all those things that could, are strengths, weaknesses. Anyway, Dan Sullivan kind of abbreviated that and calls his DOS, D-O-S, which would be dangers, opportunities, and strengths. So what I would help you do is identify any dangers that might impede your ability to reach those goals. We would look at any opportunities you haven't thought about. And then finally, we would look at the strengths you now have in your possession that could help you further your goal and give you confidence toward achieving those goals. So it does take a lot of skill. It's an art. I've done this for years. So you might be sitting there going, gosh, Tony, I'd love to sit down with you and figure out what it is me and maybe my spouse are trying to do for retirement. Maybe you're already retired and you're kind of at that point. I had a couple in the other day that they're trying to figure out how to leave their assets to their children on the least amount of taxes. You know, they've got plenty of money, but they're just now realizing the government or nursing homes could yank it all away from them in a moment's notice. So really, it doesn't matter whether you're retired or nearing retirement. I can help you with that. So if you'd like to take advantage of meeting with me in person, or if you just want to talk briefly by phone, there's never a cost. Listen, folks, never a cost or fee to talk with me. The owner of the company, someone with over 37 years of experience. I've met with over 15,000 savers, folks. I know this world of retirement and money really well. So if you want to take advantage of just some free advice and sit down and talk, why don't you do this? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And when you go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. And that information is confidentially sent to our offices, and we'll make that happen either by phone or if it warrants. Be happy to meet with you in our Louisville, Bowling Green, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Or speaking of mobile devices, just grab that mobile device and give us a call at 877-499-9255, and we will make that happen. Okay, Aaron, when we come back, I got to take a quick break. I got to get my notes. We're going to have a visit from Aaron Einstein. When we could, like what I said, Einstein.
I like how you said that. Yeah, you got it down.
I love that name. I just love Aaron Einstein. But anyway, we're going to meet with Aaron Einstein, and we're going to talk about this idea of who in the world, you are sitting there retired or getting ready to retire. I got to know this, folks. How in the world and who in the world are you going to talk to and going to turn your life savings over to? Some interesting calculations and just how daunting a task it must be for savers trying to find an advisor in whom they can trust. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back.
With the stock market at all-time highs, our nation's debt through the roof, and inflation racing out of control, now may be the best time to consider safeguarding your money. That's why I'm offering to review your 401k and other retirement accounts to be sure that you aren't taking too much risk and you're not going to run out of money. To set up your free meeting with me, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker, and the theme of our show is imagination and how to leverage that. So let's imagine this. Let's imagine you're 62 years of age. Let's imagine you've worked 40 years at the same job, slaving away and saving into that 401k that has become a tax-invested nightmare. You're married, grown children, everybody's self-sufficient, and you're ready to retire. So the question is, how in the world are you going to pull this off? And more importantly, who are you going to talk to about your life savings? Well, we thought about this, and we decided to do, I had Trey, my favorite son-in-law, do some research, Aaron. I know you were aware of this because I know Albert Einstein will show up in a minute to help us, or Aaron Einstein, excuse me.
It's Albert's cousin, Aaron.
Albert's cousin, Aaron.
Aaron.
You're a descendant of Albert.
That's
correct?
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. But anyway, he discovered, Trey, now this is a big area in Louisville, where we're located at 8303 Shelbyville Road. Within a 10-mile radius, there's approximately 2,000 advisors and insurance agents within a 10-mile radius. Now think about this, Aaron. You're that 62-year-old, and you're trying to find help for retirement planning. How in the world are you going to start that search? And then the time involved. That's the other thing. I tell you what, here's the calculation. I want Aaron Einstein to calculate. 2,000 advisors, and let's say you spend 30 minutes on that. So let her rip.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, let's go through the calculations. If you have 2,000 advisors and you meet with them for 30 minutes each, that comes to a total of 60,000 minutes, which translates to $1 2,000 hours, which translates to over 40 days. That sounds like too much time to me, Tony.
I couldn't agree more. What a waste of time. So let's see if I can help you out a little bit on this. So let's do this. Let's imagine this 2,000 advisors in the area. You with me, Aaron?
Yep.
Okay. Now, and again, folks, this is all fictional. We're just imagining here, but it will kind of help you think through what is it you're looking for in an advisor? What are their credentials? Who are they? Who are these people? What do they represent? How long are they going to be with you? Are they going to be there for the long term, et cetera, et cetera? So let's do it this way. So we have 2,000 advisors. And let's say, Aaron, you're looking for an independent advisor. You don't want an advisor that works for a big firm. You want somebody who you feel is independent of a huge firm. And let's say that whittles it down to 1,000. You with me so far?
Okay.
Again, we're just making up numbers. But that's still a lot of people. That's still a lot of time. You're not going to go meet with 1,000 people,
No.
right? Okay. We got to whittle this down some more. So let's say my next parameter, I guess, let's say you say, well, I know what? I only want to work with a fiduciary, somebody required by law to work in your best interest. So let's say we found out of that 2,000, 300 are fiduciaries. So that whittles it down. They're independent fiduciaries. It's still a lot of people.
Still a lot, yeah.
Still a lot of time. Okay, then you say, well, I got to whittle it down some more. Let's say we find out of the 2,000, the ones that are independent and fiduciaries and have had at least 20 years of experience in the retirement planning business, now we're down to 10 people. Is that feeling a little better?
That's a little more doable in my opinion.
But still a lot of people.
It's a lot, but yeah.
What if I could take it down one more? What if out of those 10 advisors remaining that you're thinking about talking to, only 3 of those that will meet with you in person and work with you? I'm not talking about own the company and you never see. 3 of those people out of the 10 are owners of the company who will sit down with you face to face, knees to knees, eyes to eyes, and put a game plan together. Would that be pretty impressive?
Absolutely.
So now we're down to 3. Now, talking about not wasting a lot of time, then you say, okay, I'll go meet with those 3, because that's pretty good. That means I would be meeting with 3 people who are independent, they're fiduciaries, they're the owner of the company, they will meet with me in person, but only one of those, guess who this might be?
I think I know him.
Only one of those has a proprietary software they've created that's specifically designed for you, Aaron, the saver, and mine. That would be us. So what is this software, folks, and why does it make us so unique from the competition? Now, I can't speak for everybody. There may be somebody that has this software out there, so I apologize in advance if you're that advisor that fits this mode and has your own proprietary software you spent well into the 6 figures of. More power to you. I've just never seen it, Aaron. Okay, I can only go by what people bring me. What people bring me are illustrations. They bring me binders full of paperwork, 40-page statements they can't understand, annuity contracts they don't have any clue what they've got. It goes on and on, but nobody ever brings me a written game plan that they understand. You understand? Okay. Now again, the people that don't come see me may already have one, but what I see is people who are confused, no game plan, no help. They have plenty of annuities, they have brokerage statements, they got this, they got that, but no game plan. And that's scary because, folks, that's what retirement planning is all about. Retirement planning is not just what investments you have. Retirement planning is how are you going to use those investments in the most efficient manner possible and use and enjoy that money before it's too late. So that's what we've got with the Worry-Free Retirement. Not only myself, we have 3 salaried fiduciaries. We have a staff of over 10 people in Bowling Green that are there to service your needs. And best of all, we have this proprietary game plan called the Worry-Free Retirement. So if you don't have anything like that, if you don't have a trusted advisor with a written game plan that you can monitor throughout retirement and people that are going to be there for you that are local, why don't you do this right now? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button. There's absolutely no cost or charge to meet with us, or you can give us a call anytime at 877-499-WALK. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. Next week, we've got an interesting show. We're going to talk about what the 7-year itch and Wall Street has to do with your money and why we could be approaching the possibility of another 2008. But you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.